Tonight is a day that we will remember as a historic day in American history. It's a day like September 11th or maybe like Pearl Harbor. And we have to, first of all, acknowledge the incredible skill and unbelievable bravery, excuse me, and unbelievable bravery of our military, as well as the courage of our president. This is something that should have been done 4 decades ago. And no American president and no American president other than Donald J. Trump has had the courage to do it. This is something that protects the whole world, not just the United States. The only president I actually worked for as a government employee was President Ronald Reagan. President Ronald Reagan would be extremely proud tonight of President Trump. President Reagan warned many decades ago that the worst thing that could happen to the world, now that we had nuclear weapons, is that nuclear weapons could fall into the hands of a madman. Well, that's what President Donald J. Trump prevented tonight. Nuclear weapons falling into the hands of a homicidal, suicidal maniac who has so much blood on his hands, it's impossible to calculate, and much of it American blood. We have endured unbelievable humiliations, a great deal of murder and homicide and death to our American troops and to Americans. We've tolerated assassinations, terrorist attacks, all without response, and sometimes with massive American financial support, particularly from Obama and Biden, who escaped all consequences for giving cash to a terrorist. Well, tonight that came to an end. And it came to an end in a very well calculated, very well thought out, very well balanced decision by a president who has already proven his unbelievable ability to put America on the right course so quickly. This comes one day after we learned that in the month of May, absolutely no one came into this country illegally, when just a year ago, 7,000 did. And the year before that, some incalculable number, like 100,000. The changes that he can bring about, putting this country on the road that was intended by our founding fathers and by our great presidents, Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan, is astounding. And the world is in his debt tonight. I believe, as I tweeted and as I left a message for him, this is the reason God saved him, to save us. And he has with this action. This comes after 45 years of the Islamic Republic of Iran, I call it the reign of terror, declaring war and conducting war on the United States. It goes back to the hostage crisis, 1979 to 1981, that only ended when Ronald Reagan went into the White House. 52 American diplomats and citizens were held hostage for 444 days, humiliating the United States of America and torturing these patriotic Americans. And nothing was done of any substance except an aborted attempt at rescue. And then after it was over, they paid no price. And then in 1983, they bombed our Marine barracks in Beirut, killing 220 United States Marines, and nothing was done. And then over the years, from then until 2016, a myriad of attacks of all kinds. Then in 2016, the Iranian military captured 10 US Navy sailors after their boats drifted into what they considered Iranian waters in violation of international law. The sailors were held at gunpoint, forced to kneel, and in violation of international law before they were released. And nothing was done about it, not militarily, not legally. And then massive Iranian support for the Shia militia during the Iraq War, killing incalculable numbers of Americans, at least 600 that we are absolutely sure of, but possibly into the thousands. Of course, executed by Soleimani, who President Trump made sure was delivered justice before he ended his first term of office. Otherwise, he might have been given millions of dollars by Biden, who refunded the Iranian reign of terror to the tune of at least $100 billion. That's after his predecessor, Democrat, gave cash to a terrorist. Usually a violation of American law that puts you in jail if you're not above the law. And then the attempted assassination attempt of the Saudi ambassador in Washington, D.C. in 2011. And again, nothing was done about it. The drowning of the U.S. Global Hawk drone in 2019. In that case, there was retaliation for the first time. And of course, that was done by President Trump. And it didn't happen again. And then, of course, in 2020, President Trump was able to make sure that Soleimani paid the price. And Iran retaliated by launching a dozen ballistic missiles at an air base in Ain al-Assad, injuring over 100 soldiers, many of whom are suffering today with traumatic brain injuries. Again, in 2020, in May of 2021 and in 2023, Iranian speedboats harassed United States Navy vessels in international waters. This is an incredible record of acts that are acts of war under normal circumstances. And of course, in March of 2023, a United States contractor was killed, and 5 troops were wounded by a drone strike in Syria. And from October 2023 to January 2024, before Donald J. Trump was in office, and while the feckless Biden was there, over 150 drone and rocket attacks on U.S. bases in Syria and Iraq. Of course, all of the action of Hamas, Hezbollah, Syria was on behalf of the Islamic Republic of Iran, with their backing, with their support, and very often with their personnel involved. And that, of course, was true to a very large extent of the attacks done by the Houthis from Yemen, which involved attacking American vessels, killing Americans, as well as vessels from all over the world. And President Trump went the last mile, the last inch, to try to reach a responsible agreement with Iran. And the only responsible agreement would be their completely ridding themselves of any possibility of being a nuclear power. It's one thing that we never retaliated against them from actual war against us. It's another to have them sitting there, and a regime that has proven it is virtually insane based on an interpretation of their religion that is maniacal. Think of the women that they kill because they show a little hair, or the women that they stone because of allegations of adultery. Think of all the people that they've killed over this period of time. And for how long are we going to tolerate? They're chanting every Friday, death to America, as well as death to Israel. You should know on those Fridays in Tehran, when they chant, they have a third chant, and that's death to MEK. MEK is the dissident organization that is responsible for a great deal of the information that's been used by Mossad in their enormously effective infiltration of Iran, going way back to the original discovery, back, I believe, in 2003, of the nuclear facility in Natanz. Without that discovery, Iran would have proceeded for years undetected. But that discovery, in conjunction with Mossad, began at least our concentration on the possibility that Iran would become a nuclear power. That was substantially assisted by the enormous amount of financial support given to Iran once Obama came into office. Sending Iran hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. Please consider that that would be like Obama sending hundreds of millions of dollars in cash to bin Laden, except bin Laden's terrorism, although the worst in terms of American history, didn't reach anywhere near the length and the extent of the two Ayatollahs, including this one. The number of Americans they killed and the number of innocent people that they killed, the number of their own citizens that they eliminated, and the constant threats to destroy Israel and the big state in the United States were intolerable. The actions that they took should have been interrupted a long, long time ago with the kind of courage and the kind of strength shown by President Trump and by our unbelievable military, the very, very best in the world. So tonight, the world is a little bit safer. It's safe from the threat that worried our great President Ronald Reagan the most. As I said, nuclear arms falling into the hands of madmen. It's safe because if they dare to retaliate against us, it's going to be a lot worse for them. And I would say to the rest of the world, particularly Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, this is not a man to toy with. This isn't a demented crook like Biden or a warped person like Obama, who seems to have had a grudge against America, a hatred for America, and early training as a communist. This is an American, a real American, one who expresses his love for this country, and one who follows through on it. This is not someone who would give cash to terrorists or refinance the biggest sponsor of terrorism in the world. This is a man who became president to make America great again. And despite the horrible things that he's been put through, he's held steady to making the choices that were the best possible for the safety, security, and eventual success of this great nation. There's been no president that has taken that more seriously than Donald Trump. He may turn out to be our greatest president. Tonight will be one, or today, and today's action, and the way in which he went about doing it, giving peace every chance possible without risking the survival of the state of Israel or the United States. Also, to the state of Israel, and particularly to Prime Minister Netanyahu and their unbelievably brave military and intelligence officers, and still, this wouldn't have been possible without their laying the groundwork for over a year in not only defeating Hamas, which of course was the original start of this by their attack, their brutal and barbaric attack on innocent people, which in the warped analysis of Western Europe and many unbelievably misguided or possibly very motivated Americans, motivated by the one world or motivated by Marxism. In their view, these actions are horrible. They support Hamas. They support Iran. It's hard to believe. It's hard to understand. It's hard to accept. And I say to all Americans, now that our president, who was elected, telling the American people what he would do, he said he would make certain that Iran does not have nuclear weapons. Under no circumstances would he allow that. He attempted beyond anything anyone would expect to achieve that peacefully. He gave the reign of terror. And when I say Iran, I don't mean the people of Iran. I mean the reign of terror. I know the condition in Iran probably better than most. And I know that many, many of the Iranian people are tonight very hopeful that this will lead to their freedom, to their not being under the dictatorship of a maniacal religious maniac. They've been protesting for years with great deal of support from President Trump and with opposition from Obama and Biden. There's been talk of the son of the former Shah taking over for a period of time Iran. That would be just repeating our mistakes in the past. The Shah was taken out of power because he himself was a dictator, a murderer, and a massive thief. He and his collaborators and government took a fortune from the people of Iran and brought it to the United States or laundered it. The Shah had a military police that was not too different than the SS. He was a dictator. He was absolutely corrupt. He collaborated with the insane mullahs and religious fanatics in order to keep his position of great wealth. And the people uniformly despised him. When they overthrew him, They thought they were going to get some form of a democratic government. It was a coalition of which the Ayatollah was only a small part. And the Ayatollah promised to come back and just be a religious leader and stay out of government. But all the time, they had been laying the groundwork all over Iran for a religious theocracy taking over. And when he came in, they ousted their opponents. They eventually killed them all. And the main one that they persecuted and killed for all these years was the Mujahideen al-Khalq, the MEK. However, the MEK remained, flourished, was very much instrumental in the protests that have taken place over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, 7 years, and of course has been, for the Mossad, the single biggest source of internal information and assistance that led to the tremendous damage that Israel has been able to do, both inside Iran and by eliminating the proxies that were standing guard for Iran. Today's mission was made possible, or at least made safer, by the incredible genius of Israeli intelligence and the incredible bravery of the Israeli military. We owe Benjamin Netanyahu a great deal. Along with President Trump, they have saved Western civilization yet again. This is a time for Churchill medal for both of them. It required weighing enormous risks, balancing incredibly difficult arguments. I respect very, very much the people who argued against this. The president needed to hear that. The president needed to weigh that. The president needed to consider it. And more than any president, he let us know that he was doing it. And again, he gave the Iranians the reign of terror, who really didn't deserve it, the opportunity to make a rational and reasonable peace. They still have that opportunity, but without the ability to be a nuclear power. Whether they take it or not is up to them. Whether the Iranian people rise in revolt against them, that's up to them too. I would say to my friends in Iran, who I've had the opportunity to address many times, I hope for you that someone doesn't attempt to impose the Shah on you. I know your reaction to that. I know that it will be like going from one group of murderers to another group of corrupt murderers. If there are any romantic illusions or recollections of the Shah of Iran, please remember that he also was a homicidal, crooked dictator. And that was in a time in history where we had crooked, homicidal dictators who were on our side. Well, that's long past. I've never heard of a country overthrowing a dictator and returning to a monarchy. There's no question that the Shah has put on a public relations campaign, but be careful. He was against this attack. He was against this attack because he's working very closely with the Iranian Guard and will utilize them like his father utilized the Savak. So if the opportunity comes, we should support an open election, an interim government. Of course, of all the years that I've worked with them, and 130, 140, 150 members of Congress, Republican and Democrat, the National Council for Iranian Dissidents, of which the MEK is a major part, could play a very, very helpful role in guiding the government to an election in less than a year, one would hope, with an interim government that's already ready to act, led by a woman, with a great deal of emphasis immediately on protecting the rights of women, but also on religious freedom and on a non-nuclear, peaceful Iran. A peaceful Iran will make it possible for peace in the Middle East. The biggest single obstacle to peace between Israel and its neighbors for the last number of decades has been the maniacal Ayatollah, who every Friday prays for death to Israel, death to America, and death to the MEK. Well, we're all together in one boat now. Let's hope that this has done away completely with their nuclear possibilities. And let's hope that in a short time, we can all meet in a Tehran that's free and that has a government worthy of the great people of Iran, the Persian Empire, people who helped build civilization, and people who, when they came to the United States and other parts of the world, have been enormously successful contributors. This is an exceptional group of people, including inside the country of Iran. They've been held under the worst possible conditions. They're a very young nation. They're a nation that has suffered enormous persecution by these religious maniacs. They understand the value of freedom and democracy. And if given a chance, they'll become a major contributor to the peace and success of this world. Donald Trump has given them that chance. And Benjamin Netanyahu. And, of course, the exceptionally brave and skilled militaries and intelligence services that brought this about. So we'll know the details much better tomorrow when Secretary of Defense Hegseth and the Joint Chiefs of Staff brief us on precisely the extent of it. It looks like, at least with regard to the main objective, it appears to be complete elimination of Fordo. Extraordinary mission. As President Trump said, it could not have been done by any military in the world or any military in the history of the world. From the day our military began, which is almost to the day 250 years ago, it's done the impossible. It's achieved the impossible from the very beginning in defeating the greatest empire in the world. When it was on the verge of defeat any number of times under our first great president, George Washington. A military that delivered Europe twice in the last century, the second time from an evil that's almost impossible to describe, Nazism, and a combination of a president and a military that delivered Eastern Europe and liberated them by peace through strength. And peace through strength means showing that you're capable of using that strength if necessary. Well, I would say to our adversaries, don't jeopardize the safety and security of this country, because this president will make certain that you're not going to do that for very long. So I do hope that Putin and Xi Jinping are paying very close attention to the strength of this president and the support that he has among the American people, who would rather die than to live under communism, dictatorship, or any group that wants to take our freedom away. There may be some Americans who have opposite voices, but they're not the majority of Americans. And I really urge them to put aside their differences. And now that the president has acted, after balancing everything, supporting the United States of America as one people, as we did after the Islamic extremist attack on our nation on September 11th. So we pray for the safety of all those involved in this mission, for the safety of our military that are now in harm's way and getting ready for whatever retaliation might take place. We pray for all the people of the United States. We pray for the people of Iran, that they'll be delivered from this nightmare, from this reign of terror. And of course, we pray for the people of Israel, who have done so much to free the world of this tremendous danger, obviously to them, but also to us. So, dear God, thank you for saving Donald J. Trump's life so that he could save us. And thank you for giving us, Americans, the blessings that we have of freedom and democracy. And may we always be ready to sacrifice our lives in the name of freedom. And you've given us enormous strength. This president has redeemed the faith that you showed in him, and our people have. And I say from the bottom of my heart, and I hope you all say it with me, God bless America.